in terms of the volunteers and their recruiting since July. So you got 5 guys in July, you got 1 in August. These are all 24/7 rankings. So when you're sitting there going 3-star, blame Ryan. He's the one grading them at his national office in New York. But anyway, you see there you've got a receiver, linebacker, safety, tight end, defensive line. You're all over the board. It's not just offense anymore, which is one of the things that I was very much concerned about. You look at this, Will, and you can say, all right, they've turned the corner. I mean, there's been talk about this staff and Josh Heupel that has been, they're okay recruiters, but they really needed the NIL. If it weren't for NIL, they wouldn't be that great. Has something changed here? Have they turned the corner and this is, you're going to be a top 10 team from here on out, the way you were in the 90s? Or is it still too soon to say that and you're like, this could still just be one heater of a moment?
I think that they have turned a corner maybe in the way that they're doing business and their ability to close. At the same time, you put those 4 and 3 stars up against Georgia's 5 and 4 stars and expect them to close that gap. That's the one thing that I would say. So they've done a good job, but they've done it at the level of probably still being the 6th and 7th best in the SEC, which is better than being the 10th best in the SEC, right?
Well, right now you were number 6 in the nation yesterday. I think by last night you were number 7 on 24/7 rankings. So that's higher than Heupel has been so far. His previous high was 10. So you're up to 7th. But the interesting thing is that was 5th in the SEC.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about 1 or 2 players who breaks a leg, who has a fight with a girlfriend and transfers out. We don't know that kind of stuff. So it's you're in the ballpark with those other teams. Now, I just wondered, do you think they can stay there?
Yeah, look, I think they turned a corner last year. They signed a class on the blue chip ratio for the first time since 2019. And the corner turned last year. And then if you can continue to win, continue to put guys in the National Football League, you will continue to ascend that based on how much success you have and how well you develop your players.
Do you feel like they've turned a corner, or is this just a hot streak?
Yeah, I think they've turned a corner. I think we're seeing from last year's class to this year's class more high-profile players who saw what Tennessee did in 2022 and view Tennessee as a higher-level program than was the case when this staff first arrived, and they had to make up a lot of ground in how Tennessee is perceived by recruits. Getting a highly touted quarterback early in this class, I do think has helped. And George McIntyre, which I'm sure they hope will help in 2026 in getting Faison Brandon's commitment. But they were able to bring in a ton of talented players in June. And everybody, I think, had the opinion, okay, they're getting them on campus. That's a great next step. Can they close? And they've done that in the 5-6 weeks since then. So I think what they've done so far, David Sanders hanging out there, and if they're able to close with him, which I think there's a good chance in the next couple of weeks, then I think that would further validate that they have turned the corner and they've taken recruiting to a higher level.
Tyler, you're a gambler. Is this a hot streak, or is this something that's going to last?
No, it's a trend, and it's heading in the right direction. I'm with Josh on a couple of his comments. Not only do I believe they've turned the corner, the David Sanders comment at the end. I know you want the answer now. I was going to try to cheat and say, ask me again in a couple of weeks when one particular name comes into play. So not to completely copy-paste what he just did, I remember there was a point in time, just erase it. I know this is his 4th year here in Knoxville. And I brought this up to Will earlier on our show this week. There were people who thought that this man, Josh Heupel, wasn't going to be able to recruit or be even in the ballpark of being able to compete in the college football world until this year. It was year 4, Black Cloud, Jeremy Pruitt, all the sanctions. He gets his flowers in 22 with the 11-win season. He has an okay season last year, and now the expectations with 12 teams is the college football playoff. So I think to all the national media members who said we wouldn't see the bright spots till year 4, maybe they were onto something. The bright spots, they've already come on the football field. Maybe these bright spots are not happening on the recruiting trail.
Ryan, I'll let you close this out.
Yeah,
What has changed? Whether you think this is a hot streak or a trend, follow that up with what's changed. Are they closing better? Is it they have something to sell now?
I think they have turned the corner. I think, like Will said, though, it kind of started last year. Last year, the summer just didn't go quite as well. They had some battles that went sideways on them during this stretch. This year, more has gone right in the summer. I think as for what's changed, I think maybe in some ways they've calibrated their approach better in some ways. There were a couple years in now with the NIL stuff. Maybe now you've fine-tuned your approach a little bit more, where to divide, where to put your resources and how to handle those situations, and also which players are realistic and which ones are not. Don't waste your time on players that aren't coming here. Tennessee, I think, did a good job of that in this class with a couple of guys that they probably weren't going to get. So some of it's just learning from mistakes in past years, and also just having more to sell. That's part of it too, no question. 20 wins in back-to-back seasons, that they've got a lot to point to right now.
Very good. Very good. All right, when we come back, Ryan was over practice today where there was some bad news that was delivered. We'll talk about Jordan Thomas. We'll talk about everything else that's going on over there. Any other stories that have caught our eye this week? We got to go through position battles. What are the most important spots that they still have to fill over there? Safety just got bigger question mark on it with the Thomas dudes. Come on back on the Sports Source.